Okay, so here we go. It is Friday, December 30th, and 2005, and we're here in Haskell, and we're just going to ask Aunt Marguerite to start from the very beginning, because we want to get a video record of the family's history. So, do you want to start with your father, Papa Tony, and how he came to this country?
Yeah, he had a cousin in Wagner, and they wrote and told him to come. So he was 16 years old, and he came to the United States. He had a little money in his pocket, and when he got off the boat, there was a fellow that didn't have any money, so he threw his pouch with the money in it up to the fellow so he could get in. And then he bought some stuff to peddle, and he walked from, I don't know how he got to Pennsylvania, but anyway, he was in Pennsylvania, and he walked down the railroad track, and to eat he would pick up pieces of coal, and he'd buy him a small piece of meat and roast and put it on a stick and make shish kebab.
Now, what year was this when he came over?
It was 1898.
And he was how old?
He was 16 years old.
And now, do we know anything about the cousin in Wagner and how they got here?
They had a sister, Kay Saab's wife, and had a sister, and they got her here. That's how they got here. What?
What was their last names?
Baraji.
Barajis. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Their last name.
And there's still some, Stephen, over in Hulbert. And when we went to Maurice's graduation,
so do you want to get it? Do you want to talk?
no,
do you want to get in?
Tell you,
No, I won't. You come and
we
tell
went
them.
to tell them about stopping by their house when we
See,
went
this
to
is why you
Maurice's
need to sit there so we can
Tell her
ask
you
her
don't know about it.
questions.
I don't look good. But you remember us stopping by their little house?
Okay, so it was 1898.
Yeah.
And he was
to the United States,
16, and
years
his
old.
cousins in Wagner has said,
Yeah.
what, basically
That,
good economic opportunity
that's
here,
right.
you can make a life
Yeah.
for yourself, come on
That's
over. Now, as I recall, my great-grandfather, your grandfather, was the mayor of Wadi Shahur,
that's right.
and so they were a fairly
They were fairly well off.
well-off family.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
right.
why did
And
he
they-
want his sons to come to America?
He didn't want his son. He decided he wanted to come.
So it was Papa Tony's
Papa
decision.
Tony's decision.
Okay.
He decided that.
Okay, so his father actually wanted him to stay there in Lebanon.
Could have. I really don't know that. part of
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I just know he came, and whether his father didn't want him to come, I never did. I mean, it was never told to me, let's put it that way.
Okay.
So anyway, he came here, and
And he basically peddled, it sounds
yeah,
like.
he peddled. He bought, now where he bought his stuff, I don't know. There's a lot of questions we should have asked that we didn't. But he had a pack, and he walked down the railroad to St. Louis. And when he got
And you want to put your arm down because it's in the
when he
front
got
of your
to St.
face.
Louis, he bought some more stuff, and then he walked from St. Louis. Really, I don't know how he got to St. Louis. When he got to St. Louis, he walked down the railroad track and pedaled along the way. And when he got to Wagner, that's where his cousins were. Then, let's see, what did he do? Well, he bought some more stuff and pedaled through here, Indian Territory.
Now, when he met his cousins, did they try to tell him to stay there and do business with them, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. All I know that he came here because it was he could pedal through here and sell something. See, so and then he came. Oh, we went to Bristol first. That's where several Lebanese people were.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know their names or anything, but I know that there was a group there. So then he got a pack. He got some goods. And he pedaled down through here, and it was all Creek Indians that lived here at the time. This is Creek Nation, this part of the country is.
Right, so we should probably say that at that time, Oklahoma was Indian territory.
That's right, it was still Indian territory.
It did not become a state until 9 years later in 1907.
Yeah, that's right. He didn't make the run. He should have, but he didn't, to get land for nothing, you know. But it was more up around Oklahoma City.
Right.
Than it was down here.
The Oklahoma land run was actually the western part of the state.
Yeah. But he spoke Indian really before he really could speak good English. And
was that Creek he spoke?
Yeah.
Okay.
And he would, they'd have their powwows, and Papa would dance with them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they would kill turtles, and then they'd put rocks in the turtle shells. And when they danced, it made a rhythm around, when they danced around the fire.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then, and an Indian woman wanted to adopt him. And he didn't want to be adopted by her. I said, why were we asked him why didn't he? Because you would have inherited a lot of land. The woman was wealthy. But anyway, that's another story. But anyway, then he pedaled through here. And then he found out that the railroad was coming through here. So he put up a tent right by the surveyor's shack.
And that was here in Haskell.
Yeah, and we had a tornado. And it blew his tent away. So then he builds a wooden building. Now, the man that was a surveyor was named J.H. Hill, and he became a very good friend. He was a prominent lawyer in Tulsa, and we became very good friends, and friends of Papa's and all of us, and we used to go to their home all the time. Then he built the wooden building. And then as time went by, he built the first rock building in Haskell, Oklahoma. Okay, then he built that building, and then he built the building across the street. The building on the first building is still standing, but the second building was destroyed by fire last year. Okay, then...
No, what about him selling the lemonade?
Well, the first thing he sold... He was at a picnic and he sold the first piece of merchandise, or whatever you want to call it, in Haskell, Oklahoma, and it was a glass of lemonade. And while he was there, he got in a fight with a fellow, and he shot him, and the bullet went through his flesh under his arm, and he beat the hell out of that man.
So it was very much the Wild West out here.
Oh,
still.
yeah, it was really the Wild West. So anyway, then after that...
Do they know what the altercation was about? What they got in
I
the
really
fight
don't
over?
know.
Okay.
I never did find out. Isn't that funny? I never did think I asked anyone, but it must have been probably cool. Oh, shit. Uh-oh.
I'll edit that part out. So now, was this still in the early O's or whatever?
Yeah, it was in
the 1900s.
1900 at the time.
Okay.
And then then after the wind blew his tent away, then he built a wooden building.
Right.
Built a wooden building, and then from there, he built the first rock building in Haskell. And I wish I could think of his name. His daddy brought the rocks in from out here at Cameron's, about a mile out.
Mm-hmm.
And Papa built the first rock building in Haskell. And then he prospered. He prospered. Then he built the building across the street from there in 1915 and rented it to different people. And he rented it to a man by the name of Benedict. And he died during the flu epidemic. We had a flu epidemic here, like everywhere else.
Can you stop for 1 second, Aunt Marguerite? We'll switch back up. Okay, so what about his first wife?
He met her in Bristol, no, Stroud, Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And she was only 15 when he married her.
And he must have been, what, 19 or so?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Okay, so that was like 3 years after he got here, so that'd
That's
be
right.
around 1901.
That's right.
And what was her name?
I forgot.
Okay.
I forgot. And she had, she got what they called quick consumption, but it was tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
And she died at the age of 16 or 17. And she had Bernice, I think, when she was about 16 years old.
Okay, so they had a daughter by
One
his
daughter.
first marriage.
Yeah, by the first marriage.
And again, we kind of didn't say this at the beginning, but your father's name was Antone Bashara.
That's right.
Right. Okay.
And then
And he married this woman who we don't know her name, but they gave birth to a daughter.
her name was Maud.
Maud.
Maud, M-A-U-D-E. Maud.
Got it. Okay.
All right.
And again, she was just a
And
local
and
girl.
her last name, what was her last name? I don't know what her last name was.
Okay, and they had a daughter named Bernice.
That's right, one daughter. And then she died of, in those days they called it quick consumption, but it was tuberculosis.
So she must have gotten pregnant very young, like around 16 or
Well,
so.
in those days they did. I mean, 15 years old.
Right.
You know, they were just starting.
So that means Bernice was born in what, 1902, something like that?
I think
Sounds
so.
like 1902, 1903.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So, anyway, and when she died, then 9 years later, he went back to see, he had, let's say he made his fortune. He
Right.
became very well to do. And,
And now had he brought any of his brothers over yet?
yeah, Uncle Schick came,
Okay, so that was
A couple of
Chicory
years.
Bashara.
Shikri Bashara, came a couple of years later.
But later, after he
After
did?
Papa did. Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah. And,
So fairly quickly after Papa Tony came here, Chicory followed him.
yeah. And so, about 2 years later, Papa was already established.
Mm-hmm.
So then, he went back in 1909, went back to, he'd already, as I say, made his fortune.
Mm-hmm.
He was well to do then. And so he goes back to Lebanon to visit his father and his mother. And while there, he had a cousin that wanted to introduce him to somebody.
Okay, so this sounds like it was around 1920 or so?
No, it'd be 1909.
Okay.
1909.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, 1909,
Because I
1910.
was born in 1910.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Right.
that's all
Okay,
right.
so 1909. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So he took him to this family. Your grandmother's father was one of the mayors of Beirut. A well-known family and well-respected.
And what was her name?
Olga
Karam.
Karam, yeah. So then he said he wanted to marry her. In those days it was a match marriage. You know, they did match marriages. So he married Mama. And of course she was, on the way here she was pregnant and she was sick all the way. coming to this country. God
And we
bless
know
her.
from the Ellis Island records that they came over on a boat called the St. Paul.
Yeah, all right. So,
And they left from a port in France. So they must have somehow got from Beirut to France and then took the St. Paul from, I forgot where it was, I'll go look it up. But
all right.
from there they went to New York.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I guess they came through Ellis Island.
They did.
And we do have a record of everything they
their
had
name,
on them.
What's his name? Alexis's husband saw their name on there, Antoine Bichard.
Right.
When he entered into Ellis Island.
Right. And then, so they probably took a train from New York back
They
to
went back here,
Haskell.
Back to, well, yeah, Tulsa and then Haskell, yeah. So anyway, when he, and they shivery, you know what shivery is?
Mm-mm.
They go and meet him, and the men take the men and put them in a wheelbarrow
Uh-huh.
and ride them down the street, and that's called shivering.
Oh, okay.
In the old days, they did that, and the women came and a doctor's wife of French extraction could speak French. And of course, Mama was educated in a French school,
Uh-huh.
so they went and got her
Right.
so they could tell Mama what was going on.
Uh-huh.
And Mrs. Summers and the different ones, and of course there were no automobiles then, so they all came down on horseback.
Uh-huh.
So then they met, and while they were shivering Papa, well, they took Mama and tried to, tell her what was going on. And of course she couldn't speak English yet, so the doctor's wife spoke to her in French. So then,
Could we back up a little bit?
they what?
Let's back up a little bit. So, what was Bernice doing all this time? Because
She was with her grandmother in Stroud, Oklahoma.
oh, okay. So Maud's mother took Bernice in
That's right.
and kept her.
No,
Okay.
Maud was the name of her mother.
I know, but Maud's mother.
Yeah, Maud's mother, yes, yeah.
Okay.
Grandma Ransom was her name.
Ransom?
Uh-huh.
R-A-N.
S-O-M.
Okay, Grandma Ransom. Now, was Maud's name Ransom then? Was she Maud
You know,
Ransom?
isn't that funny? I don't know.
Okay.
Never did know. Never did ask.
Okay. Okay, so Grandma Ransom was taking care of her. Now, I thought you told me Papa sent Bernice to a convent at some
We
point.
did after that.
After that.
Well, yeah, after you married Mama,
Okay.
they came to Haskell.
Okay.
And Uncle Schick sent Helena, his daughter, to the convent in Muskogee, so Papa sent Bernice.
I see.
See, so that's the reason she went to the convent.
Got it. Okay. And then, let me see. Okay, so this is 1909. They come back. They shivery Papa Tony, and there's a big
Yeah.
celebration and everything.
That's right, it was.
And then they settle in here in Haskell.
Yes.
And then by this time, tell us a little bit about the businesses Papa had downtown. Now, Shikri was here. Was his brother Joseph here too?
Yeah, but he didn't have anything to do with as far as business was concerned. He had no connection with the business.
Okay, well, what did you call him Uncle Joe?
Oh yeah.
What did Uncle Joe do?
He finally opened up a store.
His own store.
Yeah, his own store.
Okay.
His own store.
And Shikari, though, was in business
Yeah, he
with
and
Papa
were
Tony.
in business
Okay.
together. See, the Bashar brothers.
So, okay, so this is something I guess I never realized, but it sounds like just 2 or 3 years after he got here, about the time he met Maud, Uncle Schick came over and went into business with him.
That's right. Papa
Okay.
took him down.
Papa brought him
Yeah.
over, okay.
Yeah.
And then all those years, those 9 years or so, it was he and Shikari who had built their retailing business up. And they basically had a dry goods, or what
That's
we'd
right.
call
It
a
was
general merchant.
It's what they call a general mercantile.
General mercantile.
Yeah.
And it had
Okay.
everything.
Had everything.
Kind of like the Walmart of the day.
It was everything.
Right.
Groceries, what they call
Clo-
dry goods, you know.
Right, clothes.
Clothing and everything. And they were pretty good. I mean, they did real well.
Right.
And then Papa built this house in 1912, but Waddell was the first one born in this house.
So where did you guys live before this?
Well,
when you were
we lived, you know, where the garage is on the corner?
what garage?
Down here. You know where, what's his name? Down here on the corner.
The
That big
tractor?
building down on the corner.
The tractor place?
No. Tractor?
Where McCabe's tractor?
Yeah,
was?
McCabe's, that's our building.
Okay.
All right. And then 2 blocks down, we lived in a house down there while they were building this house.
I see.
Yeah.
But you were tiny at this time. You really didn't remember any of that. You would have been 1 or 2 years old.
No, I was older than that, wasn't I?
Well, you said
1912.
1912.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're
So
right.
you were born
I
in
was only 2 or
1910.
3 years old. Yeah,
Okay,
you're
and
right.
so Uncle Adia, who was number 2,
He was number 3.
number 3, so both
Yeah.
you and Aunt Viola were born.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, why don't you go through all the kids?
All right. There's
There's Bernice.
Bernice,
Right.
Marguerite, Viola, Waddell, Blanche, Florence. Oh, wait a minute. Edward. Then Florence and Madeline and Jeanette. Then Maurice, Olga, and Antoinette. But
Do those again. Bernice.
Bernice,
Mhm.
Marguerite,
Mm-hmm.
Viola,
Mm-hmm.
Waddell, Blanche,
Hold on.
Edward,
Blanche,
Florence,
Edward,
Madeline.
Florence.
You know, it's really supposed to be Madeleine, but you know, here in the United States with that little
Blanche, Edward, Florence, Madeline. Uh-huh.
Jeanette,
Jeanette.
Maurice,
Mm-hmm.
Olga, and Tony. Antoinette.
Okay, so those are Papa Tony's 12 kids.
That's right.
Okay, he had 12 kids, 1 by his first wife,
That's right.
and the rest by
The rest
Olga.
of them by
Olga Karam.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so he built this house that we're in right now, the family house, in
And Waddell
1912.
was the first one born in it.
Okay. And Wadia is really the only one who had an Arabic sounding
That's
name,
right.
right?
He's the only
Because France had
The rest of them
colonized
French.
Lebanon,
But the rest of them, we have French names.
right? Because
My
the
mother
French
was-
had colonized Lebanon,
Yeah.
and so they had
Mama,
convents
was educated
there.
in a French school.
Right.
So naturally, she's going to name everybody
Right,
in the French names.
sure. Although her name Olga,
Olga, that's Russian.
it's Russian. Now, why is
See, they
that?
were Orthodox.
Your mother was.
Yeah, she was Orthodox.
Was she
But
Antioch
automatically-
Orthodox?
Huh?
Was she Antioch Orthodox?
I wouldn't know.
Okay.
I
So
don't
our
know.
grandfather was Maronite Catholic.
Yeah, Papa's father.
Right.
But her father was Orthodox.
So that's why she
Greek-
had a
Greek
rush.
Orthodox.
Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, because her mother was born in what's the island in Greece? Crete,
Crete, C-R-E-T.
C-R-E-T-E.
Or Cyprus.
Cyprus.
Okay.
Her mother was born in Cyprus.
Okay, so we've actually got a decent amount of Greek in us.
Greek, that's right.
Okay.
That's right.
So she was Greek Orthodox.
That's right.
But I guess because of the relationship with the Russian Orthodox Church, she had
Yeah.
this.
And Mama,
No, there's a
In Lebanon.
Orthodox.
what's she saying?
Nothing.
And in Lebanon, the woman goes to the man's religion.
Right.
See, so Mama automatically became, or of course there wasn't any Greek Orthodox here anyway. So she went to our church. She never made the difference. So you know that Mama never made the difference.
What do you mean made the difference?
Well, you know, it didn't make any difference to her,
I
Greek
see.
or
Sure.
Maronite. You know.
Got it.
So anyway, then Papa built this house, and Waddell was born in it. Then after that, on down the line, Grabama was born here, all of them. And I walked in and I told Mama, I said, we'll name her Antoinette. I named her.
Did you? Okay, so there are these stories about Papa Tony kind of in the Wild West here.
Yes.
And I assume most of these happened in that 9 years before he married your mother. So tell us a little bit about his encounter with Belle Starr. And tell us who Belle Starr was.
No, it really wasn't Belle Starr. It was an Al Starr.
Okay.
But anyway, he was up on the mountain out here, Concharty,
Mm-hmm.
and he was spending the night there. And he was up in a loft. And during the night, he woke up and he heard them saying that what they were going to do to him and rob him. So after everybody got to sleep, he sneaked out.
So was he kind of hanging out with them
No,
that
he
evening?
just happened to go by to sell them something.
And they let him sleep in their barn.
That's right. And then I get to thinking about it, and so he gets up on Concharty Mountain and he gets lost.
Now, was this the same episode?
I think so. I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about that one, but I do know that he was up on Concharty Mountain and got lost. And so at night he took out a couple of tablecloths out of his pack and wrapped himself up in them and laid on the ground and went to sleep. He said it was real cold. And he got to crying. See, he's just a young man. He got to crying because he was hungry and he was cold. So during the early morning, he heard dogs bay, dogs barking. So he woke up and he followed where he heard the dogs barking. Okay. During that time, Papa was just a young man. He was hungry all the time. He tells about he ate a whole pan of biscuits and a whole chicken. That's what he tells us. And then he got off of the mountain. I don't know. And he said that he heard him saying they were going to rob him. So he gets up and sneaks out during the night. Okay, now, then he promoted himself from peddling. He got a horse and buggy.
So basically what he did is he carried, the way he initially made his money, he carried a pack on his back.
Yeah, and he has a big welt underneath his arm bone here.
Uh-huh.
Where where it wore it, you know what I mean?
Right. So he basically had the marks on him from the backpack.
Well, that's right.
When he died, he had been doing that for so many years.
That's right.
So he started out, he'd basically buy low, sell high.
That's right.
He'd buy something and then he would have everything in his pack.
That's right.
And he would go to all these settlers out in Indian territory and with the Indians.
Yeah.
And he would trade with them.
That's right.
And he'd trade, I guess he would barter, but he'd also trade for money, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Okay. And eventually he made more money and more money.
That's right.
To the point where he could afford a horse and buggy.
That's right.
And then he would take the horse and buggy around. I guess he had his wares on the buggy.
That's right, he did.
Okay.
And
then eventually, like you said, he got a tent.
That's right.
And then he went from a tent to a wooden building.
That's right.
Then a wooden building to a brick
building.
Got
That's right.
it.
Exactly.
And they had their general mercantile store. So basically, his retail operation grew from him being a kind of a traveling peddler.
That's right, exactly. That's what he was, a traveling peddler.
Got it.
And it was wild country here, wild country.
So now, you tell us a little bit about the story where he bet some guy that he could carry a bale of hay on his back.
That's right.
What was that about?
They bet that he couldn't carry a bale of hay. No, a bale of cotton. Bale of cotton
Okay.
cross the river, and he took up the bet. It was $75. What's his name used to tell us about that, and he did it.
Mm-hmm.
He did it, and everybody marveled at him because he did. And he had to. They didn't. He had to cross the river.
Mm-hmm.
The Arkansas River is a wonder the quicksand didn't suck him in, but it did.
Oh, so he literally.
He did.
Oh, I thought he had to do. I thought he had to carry it to the river. He carried it across the river.
That's what I.
Stephen.
Now that you brought that up,
Okay, it's time to eat. We'll pick this up after dinner.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So, we're back. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Native Americans and how you
They
told
used to-
me, yeah,
They used to come in Papa's store, and at that time Papa closed up at 12 o'clock at night,
mm-hmm,
and they would come on, sit down here. They would all day long, and they would eat. They would buy 15, 20 cents at a time, and
mm-hmm.
eat bologna and crackers and whatever, and pop.
Actually, Vicki, can I ask you to sit over there?
And then they would, and Papa, they would never let anybody wait on them but Papa.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go and say, can I help him? Papa said, leave him alone.
Mm-hmm.
And in those days, he closed at 12 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And they'd wait, and they'd be the last ones to buy their groceries or whatever they had to buy. And that was it, with the Indians.
Now, didn't you say that there was a lot of racial prejudice
Oh, man, yeah.
and that most of the white folks around here didn't like the Indians?
Not too much. No.
They were very racist, but Papa was always nice
Always
to
good
them.
to them, yes.
Okay.
And they traded with him all the time. All the Indians, and Papa spoke Indian. He learned to speak Indian.
Right. Well, now, and in Creek particularly, correct?
Yeah, that's right, because that's what most of them were here.
We're Creek. Okay.
Yeah. This is Creek Nation.
I see.
See, this is Creek. Okmulgee is a headquarters.
Got it.
And this is Creek Nation.
Okay. Did you have a question, Vicki?
Yeah, when you said they were the last people in the line to buy, was that because they were forced to the back of the line? Or
Who?
The Indians.
The
You said that
Indians,
they
were
would wait
told
till the end
that
of the
they
day.
had to go to the back of
Well,
the line?
I don't really know that about it, but I do know they were always very shy, and they never did push. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, was it true? Because I think you told me, one of the kind of religious and racial differences we had is kind of Arab Americans as opposed to being, Western European Americans,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah, there was prejudice against us.
Right, and because
being,
back then the Ku
see,
Klux
Papa,
Klan
the Ku
considered...
Klux Klan, being Catholic too didn't help anything.
Right, so Catholics, Jews, blacks, you were
That's
all
right.
the same
Yeah,
to them.
that's right. Catholic, Jews, and blacks.
But now, I think you had told me that they got mad at him, not only because we were nice to the black people, but also because we were nice to the Indians. That almost made them angrier.
No, I don't think that ever.
You don't think that came up? Okay.
Never was that.
Oh, okay.
But the Ku Klux Klan, it was a muddy day in November, cold, and we kids lined up by the windows there and watched them go by with their hoods and everything.
Was this in the 20s?
Yeah, they went down to the Methodist church. The head honcho was Methodist. Tom Way went down to the Methodist church and they burned a cross. I never will forget that. Scared the out of me, those hooded things,
And
being
now,
Catholic, and they ruined our business.
So the
And
Ku
what?
Klux Klan were anti-Catholic, is that
in the
right?
early part of the century, yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So Okay, and so the Indians would sit, they'd trade with Papa,
That's right.
and they'd sit all day in the store.
That's right.
And you had other various stories. So you talked about in
And then,
1910 you were
they
born.
used to bring, you want to hear about the store, one more thing?
Yeah.
They used to bring their eggs in a tub.
The Indians did.
No, the white folks.
Right.
Maybe the Indians did too, but I didn't read, heard about the Indians bringing in a tub of eggs.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to candle them. Now, candle them means that they had a cardboard box and made a hole in it, and you look through them, you see if the eggs are bad or good. So, Papa, they were 10 cents a dozen. So they'd bring in a tub of eggs, and Papa say, "Well, don't even count them. Just count, make up so many dozen and pay them for them. 10 cents a dozen." So anyway, well, that was big money then. You know what I mean? That was the going price. It wasn't that he was being cheap, but that's what they paid for them. And they'd bring in their butter. He'd buy their butter, buy their eggs. What other commodity was there at that time? Eggs and butter, that's it. And anyway, then they'd bring, sometimes I think you'd buy some of their chickens, you know, so. And Papa and Uncle Chick got in a big fight. Somebody called him a Jew, and due respect to the Jews, but they weren't saying it as respectful. They did it as a slur.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a big fight. And they were just up and down that alley fighting. I don't know how many they fought them, but anyway, it was a big fight. Anyway, we had to do that all our life. I mean, at that time, even I got in fights up school.
And now, didn't they also call you bohunks or something like that?
They might have, I don't remember that.
Okay, I thought you
don't
told me
remember
that.
that.
Well,
No, I don't
basically
remember that.
Eastern European immigrants.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but I know
Okay.
they called us Jews. But as I say, I don't mind being a Jew, but they didn't do it as a compliment. It was a slur.
Right.
Can
See.
you turn it off a minute? So what did you...
Okay, so you said that Papa knew Tom Gilcrease when he was a
He
little boy.
did.
So what? Well, tell us who Tom Gilcrease is.
Tom Gilcrease, now in Tulsa, he's famous for his museum of Indian art and all kinds of art from all over the world, And he, as a young boy, Papa used to stop by there, and he was good friends with the mother and father. And he would run out and meet Papa and tie his horse up. And Papa always had candy in his pockets for him. And Tom always got his candy. Then when he grew up and he opened up his museum, your Aunt Jeanette was one of the first people in there when it opened up. And he saw the name Bashara, so he went all over the museum looking for her. And he said, "Are you Antone's daughter?" She said, "Yes." So then I went. And he took me down, gave me a personal tour, took me down the bottom of the museum, as big as this whole house, and he showed me all the artwork that need to be hung yet, that hadn't been hung yet.
Well, when was this, in the 50s that he showed you
I
this?
think whenever he opened up, I don't really know when Gilcrease opened up.
Now, Tom Gilcrease made all his money in oil, right?
Yes.
So he was an oil
And
man.
he married a Miss America that was from Oklahoma. Her name was Smallwood. Last name was Smallwood. He had one daughter by her, but she divorced him because he wasn't a personality kid by any means. I imagine he was very boring. Well, anyway, after that, Tom Gilcrease came down here after we told him about Papa. He came down here and visited Papa, went to Europe, and when he came back 2 weeks later, he died.
Okay, so Papa had, and our grandmother Olga Karam had most you kids, or all you kids really, between, it sounds like 1910 and 1920. Oh, no, wait. No, not really, because Mom was born in 1928.
That's right.
Okay, so really over a
All right,
period
now,
of
6
18,
years,
19
in
years.
6 years there were no kids.
I see.
And then boom, boom, boom.
Right, Uncle Mo and
Yeah.
Olga and Mom. I see.
Yeah.
So Uncle Mo is with who? Who's the one next to Uncle Mo? That would be Aunt Jeanette.
Yeah.
I see.
She was a baby.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
So
Okay.
then after that, Papa went in the vegetable business.
Well, let's talk about this a little, because my understanding was right as the Great Depression hit,
That's right.
which was what, 1929 when the
That's
stock
right.
market crashed.
1921 when
You said the Ku Klux Klan had kind of ran you guys out of business by
they did,
then.
and our business was nothing.
Right.
One of Papa's friends came in the back door, and Papa ran him off. He said, if you can't come in the front door, don't come at all.
And so we went to the back of the store and wanted to trade with him.
Yeah,
And he said,
came
if
in
you're
the
not
back
gonna-
door to trade.
Right, because he didn't want to be
And
seen with
no,
Papa.
he didn't want
And
to
why
be
had
seen.
the Ku Klux Klan, why had it taken them so long to pick on you guys?
Well, they were all our friends. See, they were all our good friends. There was
And
no reason to be anything against Papa. But they made life miserable for the Adamans.
for the what?
Adamant Hardware.
Who are they?
They were Catholics.
I see.
German.
Right.
German
So
extraction.
basically, it sounds like in the 20s, the Ku Klux Klan grew stronger around here.
Oh yeah, well all over the South.
Okay, and
All over the
they
South.
didn't like the Catholics, and so they started boycotting their business.
That's right.
And then I guess anybody who wanted to go there, they'd threaten to hurt them, or
Could have.
okay.
What did you do to stand up to them?
What did we do to what?
Stand up to them. Did you do anything to stand
Yeah,
up to
sure
them?
did. I was standing up all the time. They never did knock me down. I knocked them down, but they never did knock me down.
But then when the Great Depression came, it kind of flattened everybody.
I mean, everybody.
So everybody was on the
That's
same
right.
level.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And
Okay.
Papa then went into the vegetable business, and at least we had something to eat all the time. We were feeding the whole neighborhood,
Mm-hmm.
so we never went without a meal or anything. And then about that time, this black woman named Hattie showed up, and she put your mama and Olga in her lap and said, "You poor little motherless babies," and she really changed things around here. She was the most wonderful cook.
Well, now let's talk about that a little. So,
Okay.
when was it? It was what when your mother died?
She died in 1920. Wait a minute, was it 1929? Yeah, 1929, wasn't it?
Well, now wait. When did Mom was born in 1928? Tony, the youngest, was born in 1928.
Yes.
How old was Tony when Olga died? When
My dad,
no. When
he was.
no.
Tony, your sister. Your
my mom, Antoinette.
Yeah,
She was born in 1928.
yeah.
How old was she
She
when
was
Olga
almost-
Karam, my grandmother, died?
She was almost 2 years old. I
Okay,
think.
so then it would have been 1930 or so.
Yeah, that's right.
And
yeah.
the way that happened was they were driving
Yeah,
in the car at night. She was pregnant again,
Yeah.
actually, so that there would have been a 13th child.
That's right.
When Papa Tony fell asleep at the wheel, the
Yeah,
car
right.
crashed.
That's right.
She had internal
Miscarriage,
bleeding
yeah.
and a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And she lost a lot of blood, and that's what
right,
killed her.
exactly.
Okay, so you were 17 or 18 at the
I was
time, right?
18 at the
18.
time. 18 and a half at the time.
Okay, so you're
I was
18,
almost 19.
almost 19, and at that point you basically took on the mother
That's right.
role
That's right.
for the 10 kids
That's right.
and raised them.
That's right.
Now, you said a woman named Hattie?
That's the black woman
Hattie showed up.
showed up.
When was
Well, a few
this?
years later. Well, your mother's probably already 6 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So.
And did she just come and she was
Well,
house
I hired
help?
her. See, at that
You hired
time,
her? Okay.
Yeah, at that time I had to hire somebody to help,
Okay.
and so she was wonderful.
Oh.
Her dad sold hot tamales.
Hmm.
He had a cart,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd sell hot tamales, and we'd buy them from him.
Mm-hmm.
They were delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Hattie, God bless her.
And how long did she live here in the house, or?
No, she had a home here.
And how long did she work for you?
Oh, I imagine a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, at least that.
Okay.
She was a wonderful cook. She'd make biscuits, and you know where the washing machine is, we had a bedroom there for the boys. Before I added on, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And she used to make the biscuits and go out there and put them under the boys' noses, tell them to get up. Like I say, she was a wonderful cook. So Papa was making wine, and so she went down. She went down there one day and was drinking it, and she just sang it away.
So Papa Tony, so the 30s came.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is when all this was going on, and
Mm-hmm.
prohibition
Yeah,
was enforced at that time.
That's
This is
right.
when alcohol was
Yeah.
outlawed.
that's right. And the sheriff used to come by, and Papa didn't invite him up and have a drink.
Right, because Papa Tony had a still
Yeah,
in the basement, and he'd make his own whiskey.
that's right.
Okay.
You know what? He'd make that Eric
Oh,
out
okay.
of, we call it in Arabic.
I see.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a Middle
It was
Eastern
really-
alcoholic
oh, it was.
drink.
It wasn't as strong as everything.
Got it. And what did he make it out of?
Grapes.
Grapes.
Yeah,
Okay.
he used to buy. He'd go to the wholesale house and that'd have damaged grapes.
All right.
So Papa had a big wooden barrel, and he'd put them all in there, you know, and put sugar, and make whatever it is how you make it. Then you know he had a copper
Coil.
coil that he made made the whiskey. You could smell it all over the neighborhood, and the sheriff would go by and act like he didn't know it. He had a daughter that was hair lip. Eddie, what was her name? Eddie Mae Colbert. Eddie Mae Colbert.
So, so you were all growing up in this house during the Depression in the 30s, and at that time Papa Tony was basically just hauling vegetables, right?
That's exactly right.
Because Uncle would and Uncle Ed would
Yeah.
tell me stories about
Yeah,
going to market and having to sell
yeah, and then
a
set
truckload of
up, and
onions
set
or
up all night sometimes just to sell a little bit.
right.
And let's see. And then Papa had a black man that was his driver, and his wife just died recently. And I used to go down and see her down here, but his daughter is still living, and it's a real nice family, And then another family, Oscar, I don't know. I forgot what Oscar's last name was. And he used to drive, he used to help Papa. And then these young boys, Papa used to take them to the field to cut the stuff for the market. And to this day they come and see me and said, if it hadn't been for Papa Tony, we'd starve. And then he'd always fed them. And he'd always buy a piece of meat, cut it up, and go and get a green piece of tree stem, put it on made lahm mishri, you know, shish kebab. And those kids said that was the best food, so we still remember that morning. Take a loaf of bread,
Right.
and then he'd feed them.
So laha mishwi is
Is,
another Arabic word for shish kebab.
That's right.
And it's basically putting the
Laham
pieces
is
of
meat.
meat
Laham is meat.
Laham is meat.
Laham is meat.
Okay. And just putting them on
The
a
sheep
stick and
is
then roast them.
the
Right.
thing.
So now, Papa Tony liked to hunt, right?
Oh, yes. Famous people, I mean rich people, bankers and lawyers, used to come down here and go hunting with Papa. He had a bird dog that had a double nose, Jack. And I mean, tell you, they all came down here. Lawyers and doctors came down here and go hunting with Papa. And invariably, they got the limit.
And what would they hunt for? What kind of stuff?
Oh, it's quail.
Quail?
Quails mostly. And then when it would snow and get real cold, we'd get rabbits. But I don't think anybody's getting rabbits now because there's no snow and it's not cold enough for rabbits.
Right. Tell us a little bit about the kind of stuff that Papa Tony would bring home that you would cook up.
Well, I make cabbage rolls. I make everything I do now.
Well, no, I meant like you used to cook rabbit.
Yeah,
You'd cook
and
quail. I remember
And,
even when I would come home and bring home bullfrogs, you'd cook
Yeah,
up
that's
frog
right. We'd have
legs.
frog legs. Yeah,
Ask a couple
yeah.
questions. I was going to ask you, how would you describe your life?
How would I describe my life? Interesting
Right.
and exciting.
Well, you had a full life. You raised 10
Yeah.
kids.
I know. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing I was going to say. You were kind of, it was almost sort of at 18 and a half kind of forced upon you to be a mother, really. You know,
Yeah, I did.
Really.
Well, and you
And I
forward a
was
husband and your
stubborn.
own
I
family.
was very stubborn. Some neighbors, she smarted off. Olga went down. The man used to leave the bread down. There was a filling station down on the corner. And he used to leave the bread there. And one day Olga went down there without my permission. And she got hit by, I don't know why we didn't sue him. We were so stupid. The banker's son. And it just cut her head. But it scared the hell out of him, which I don't blame him. But we could have sued him and been rich, but we didn't.
Did you
Because they
feel,
were friends.
though, I mean, when that happened to you, how did you feel? I mean, did you feel scared, or did you feel like, I mean, do you even really remember when, I mean, because that's quite a really dramatic thing to have happened to someone at that age, that happened to you,
Yeah.
that you had to take care of all your family. I mean,
Well, it didn't bother me. I just knew that it was there. And I did it. I didn't
Right,
give
but
it
you did forego getting married and having your own
Well, you know what's
family.
funny? It never bothered me. I know a lot of women it bothered them because they weren't married. But it's a funny thing. It never entered my mind. It never bothered me. And I don't know why. I must be sick. But it never bothered me that I never married. And I never even thought about it. And I could have gotten married 3 or 4 times. It wasn't that I didn't have proposals, because I did. But I just wasn't interested.
Right.
For some reason or other. I don't know why, but...
well, you probably already felt quite fulfilled by what you were taking.
Yeah, but I
care
really
already,
didn't care.
yeah.
Well, now her hair did turn gray pretty much overnight after her
Really?
mother died.
Right.
So she
Yeah.
had gray hair at like 19, 20
I mean,
years old.
the thing that, I mean, honestly, that's such a huge responsibility to put on someone. That it is so, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
now, if that happened now, you know, you'd be on Oprah. There would be like you'd have counsellors and therapists all telling you. No, but you would though.
Well, you
And
know
it's
what?
like-
The other 100 women who this happened to during the Depression, they did go bats and kill themselves. Aunt Marguerite's
Right.
just one of the strong ones who made it through.
No,
We're tough out here on the range, darling.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you finish the story about Aunt Olga? So the banker, you told her not to go down. You're telling us
Yeah.
about how stubborn you
Yeah,
were.
so,
So she runs down to get the bread. the banker's son hits her with his car, and what happens?
Well, that was all. We brought her home and kind of split her head a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And we were so stupid, and we could have sued him,
Right.
but we didn't. But then on the other hand, it was her fault. She
Sure.
had no business being down there, and she darted in front of his car.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but then she was all right. I mean, you know, I think I probably took her to the doctor. I don't remember. But it didn't hurt that. And then the smart aleck neighbor said, well, I'm not surprised. So she was on my list from then on. Old lady,
Tell us a
old lady
little bit before we move on here
yeah,
to get back to this topic about being Catholic, because I
Yeah.
know growing up here and you kind of instilled this in me,
Yeah.
just kind of the prejudice against us here.
oh gosh.
Because everybody's very fundamentalist Christian, and
But,
the fact that you feel very strongly about your religion and you've always kind of clung to it.
yeah,
So tell us a little bit about that.
okay. I had a girlfriend, and we were just like that. And it was by the flagpole over at school. And I don't know what got into her. She said, you Jew, you Jew, you. And I hauled up and hit her. Now, before that, we had a superintendent that I could not stand. You could drive it. He was so narrow-minded, you could drive a nail between his eyes.
Now, how old were you when this happened?
Oh, I was probably not in high school yet.
Okay.
I know that. So, so this girl called me a Jew. And this new superintendent, God bless him, Lanson D. Mitchell, I'll never forget it, and Mr. White. And they were standing on, you know, we just had this old building at that time. We didn't have the new building yet. He was standing on the stairs, and he heard her. And he called her up there and scolded her. Thank God I had somebody on my side. From then on, and that was it. We never heard that again. And I'm not bragging, but I was popular at school. The football boys elected me their queen, and I was May Queen, and I was in the pep club, and whatever else there was, I was number one.
But you always, it was still kind of always an ongoing fight, though.
Oh yeah, there was always that underneath feeling. There was always that.
That undertone.
Yeah.
Well, and even in the 70s with me,
Yeah, I mean,
there were
you
a few
know,
bullies who made fun
and
of me for
it
being
could be
Catholic.
now, for all I know, but I don't pay attention. I know one time some preacher came to Haskell, and I'm not lying, they had an ad in the Haskell News that big about the Blessed Virgin Mary.
What do you
Church
mean an
cross.
ad?
You know,
Was it saying
what's her
bad
name
things
that
about the
sings
Blessed
the
Mother?
popular, the Tennessee Waltz, what's her name?
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Her sister. Her husband's a Church of Christ preacher.
Uh-huh.
And he got up there and was talking about the Catholics.
Well, now, what did this ad say about the Blessed Mother?
I forgot what it said.
Well, was it derogatory about Catholics
Yeah,
or something?
uh-huh,
Okay.
yeah. And so this young priest we had, they all put on red shirts and went down and sat on the front row in their church. And I don't know what happened, but that was it. But anyway, they decided to go down and challenge him.
Uh-huh.
Go down and challenge him. So then, I really don't know. I forgot what happened. I mean, I forgot what the reaction was. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And then, in school, so I had this girlfriend. We were raised together practically, and she and my other girlfriend, they cried when I got all these honors, but that's all right. They're both dead now. So anyway.
What would you say is the most horrendous thing you've seen happen in your life?
The what, honey?
What would you say is the most horrific thing you've seen happen
That happened in my life? maybe when my mother died. That, you know, that's it.
So let's talk about each one of the kids.
Talk about what?
The kids.
Well, they were all.
So now, did you have a relationship with Bernice at all?
Well, she was in South America.
Right. So, but
So I
she
didn't see her.
She was
again.
what, 9 years older than you?
Yes. The thing about it is I didn't see her until, well, what, 20, 25 years ago when she came back. But otherwise, we'd write letters to each other.
So you never saw her until she was a grown woman?
Oh, she was married and had all her kids. You know, she even had one of them to die and all that. I mean, you know.
So what had happened was after she got old enough, she met a Lebanese man here
Yes,
who took her to Brazil.
that's right.
Okay.
The reason she married him to get away from Uncle Schick. Uncle Schick was very strict.
Well, was he
Very
raising
straight.
her at that time?
Well, they were in Lebanon together. Papa let her go to Lebanon with him. So
I
of course
see.
she was,
So she
So
met
she
this
had
guy
to-
in
yeah.
Lebanon.
yeah, and they eloped.
Oh.
And he came from South America looking for a bride. So he sees Bernice,
Oh.
and Bernice runs off and marries him,
I see.
which was, she shouldn't have done it, but anyway.
Right.
Uh,
And this is why we have all of our cousins in South America. They're all
that's your
Bernice's
nieces
kids.
and nephews. But Mama's family, they're our cousins. But see, Maria's your niece. Bernice's daughter is your niece.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay.
So, Uncle Wadia. No, wait, Aunt Viola.
What, honey?
What would you say has been the greatest passion of your life that you would like, you know, for your ancestors to know? Like, what would you say has been your greatest love or passion of your life?
I don't know.
Would you say it's religion or cooking or music?
Religion or music or what? I
Art or travelling or lots of things. I mean, I don't know. I just
I think the
asked.
whole combination.
Right.
Well,
So we were talking about Aunt Viola.
okay, and Viola, when Mama died, now Viola never took any responsibility about anything. She was the playgirl of the family. She was always going visiting with her friends, and one night she didn't come home. We couldn't find her, and finally did find her. She was sitting in the corner. See, we had a hot water heater in the corner in the kitchen. That was before we remodeled the kitchen. And finally, after we got everybody in the neighborhood and the police and everybody looking for her, we find her sitting in the corner there where she ran in and got in there. Finally found her. Now, Viola was the playgirl. And one night, and you know the Buddha key out there, we put water in it, and she brought all of her friends, boys and girls and everybody. They were in there just having the best time. And old me, I was sitting up watching this, be sure Papa didn't hear her. Golly, holy Moses, she got by with more stuff, and I worried more. I lost more sleep over her shenanigans than anybody had brains to do.
And she was just a year or so younger than you,
Yeah,
right?
that's all. A year, 11 months. So anyway, so finally, when Mama died and Aunt Karina came, Viola wasn't responsible. She was off with her friends all the time. So I let her go with Aunt Karina, which was good in a way. In another way, it wasn't, because they were real strict, and they killed her personality. But I mean, she did all right. She married a rich man and all that. And she has a good family. But in her youth, she didn't get to have fun because they were so strict and everything.
So now your Aunt Karina was who?
And Mama's sister, Mama's oldest sister.
Okay, so my grandmother, your mother, Alda Karam, had sisters who came over here?
Well, Aunt Karina was here first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then Uncle
So
Alex.
how did Karina get over here?
She married this fellow that was over here
Where?
in North Carolina.
I see.
Yeah.
So Olga following her sister to the U.S.,
No,
so to speak, wasn't an unusual
that had
thing.
nothing to do with it.
Well, no, but I mean, her sister had already come to the
Oh
U.S.
yeah, she's already
So
here.
for her to come to the U.S., it wasn't that unusual.
No,
Okay.
no. Then Uncle Alex was 14 years old, and the Turks were taking over the Lebanese. And so my grandmother sent Uncle Alex over here to keep him from fighting, keep him out of the war.
What year was that?
Well, I think 19.
It was probably the First World War,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
When
Yeah,
the Turks
before-
had sided with the Germans.
If you don't know,
the Ottoman
Turks,
Empire.
they were fighting the Lebanese.
Right, but that
Okay,
was
see.
the part of World War One
That's
that had
right.
worked its way into the Middle East.
That's right.
Lawrence of Arabia and all that good stuff.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay. So that's when he came.
So that was probably then what, around 1917, 1918,
Yeah, something like
like that?
Well, no, it was earlier than that because he wasn't even 18 years old and he lied and got into the army in the First World War. He lied about his age.
For the U.S.
That's right.
Okay, so
World War here in the
right,
States.
so basically, his mother sent him away from the war in the Middle East.
That's right.
And he just basically went back to it, joining up here,
That's right. But
fighting for the
he
U.S.
was in Marfa, Texas. All we heard was Marfa, Texas. You know, it's down on the border
Mm.
of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, make a long story short. So Viola, after Mama died, and she never was responsible. She was always going, I called it visiting. So I sent her to Aunt Karina, which in a way, it ended out good. In another way, it wasn't good. I should never have done that, but I would have been worrying myself to death about her all the time. That's all, because she was not responsible. But anyway, whatever. Anyway, then after that, she went to Aunt Karina, and she married this man, which was good. He left her well off and everything.
And he was Habib Akel.
Huh?
Habib Akel.
That's right. So anyway, I'm not going to tell you now because I don't want it recorded. But anyway,
We're
Turn it
and
off.
then what was Uncle Wadia like?
Uncle Wadia was always a good kid. He was responsible. He helped Papa.
He rode horses. He was a real cowboy.
He was a real cowboy. He was a real cowboy. But what's funny, see, he wore overalls. And at that time, I didn't have a washing machine, and we used to have to wash those things, and they were brutal to wash those things and wring them out. And one day I told Wadia I said, well, come and help me with these. And he said, oh, I'm not going to help you with those. And now that he's older, he said, Margaret, I'm ashamed of myself that I didn't help you with those. I didn't realize what they were like.
Uh-huh.
But there for a while I had to do the laundry. And washing those overalls was a chore.
Mm-hmm.
But they were heavy and hard to wring out. And heck, I wasn't very big. I didn't weigh, I don't think I weighed as much as I do now.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it's over. So, and then he realizes what happened. So anyway, after that, and I sent Viola with Aunt Karina, and they were very strict with her, God bless her. Oh, what a miserable life. And then we just grew up. I made Blanche's graduation dress. I made your mother's wedding dress. I did all the sewing. And then what was cute, your mama and Olga, I got them little machines. They burned up in the fire. And we'd be sewing, Everybody, and we got material 10 cents a yard. 10 cents a yard. Well, that was a big price. You know, 10 cents a yard was a big price then. And we'd sit around the dining room table. I'd cut out the dresses, and then the kids would sew them. So I got Olga and your mother a little machine, and I'd cut up stuff for them, and they'd sew. So we'd all be sewing.
Tell us about Aunt Blanche. What was she like?
And Blanche was funny. She was funny all the time. She was good. And Blanche helped out a lot. I went off, where'd I go? I went somewhere visiting. And I'm thinking, what made me do that? But I suppose I had to get away. And she took care of everybody.
What was your mum like?
What
What was Steve's mum like?
Well, now, my mom was
It's
2 years old.
I know,
And
but
very
what I mean, what
tiny.
was she like growing up?
Oh, she was sweet. Tony was always real sweet. Never had a problem with Tony. She was always real sweet.
So now, how did Aunt Blanche meet Uncle Fred?
Well, they'd heard his mother wanted to marry a Lebanese girl. And they lived in Pahuska. And they had heard about us. So she brings him down here. And I don't think Blanche was really interested at first. And he was going to some, I call her, I shouldn't do it, I don't want him on
A
that.
floozy?
Oh, I'm telling you, trash.
Mm-hmm.
Trash. So boy, he got high class when he got with us. So anyway, so he came over one night to see Blanche, and he smoked a cigar, and Blanche took the cigar from him and smoked it. That's Blanche. Blanche was done. She was funny. Blanche was funny. So anyway, it ended up that they got married. But the war broke out.
Uh-huh.
And Fred went down to Denison, Texas to draw up plans for the dam.
This is World War II.
World War II, oh
Right.
yeah, World War II. And so, well then I went down there and they got married in the church down there.